Om Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om. We have come to a very interesting part of the 14th chapter where Sri Krishna is concluding the Vistarana, the elaboration of those 5 aspects of each of those gunas. He comes to the part of Gati once again, what happens to, and that will be the first verse. But immediately after that, he goes to Gunatita, and then Arjuna wants to ask what are the characteristics of a Gunatita. We have Radha to begin the first verse. Radha, please take over.
Jai Gurubhyo Namaha. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhya tishtanti rajasaha. This verse is a very, so many people have explained it in so many different ways. I hope I'll be able to do some justice to this verse. Our spiritual journeys and also the material journeys are so much linked to the gunas that we have or we have acquired from our birth. But is it a permanent thing? No. Krishna gives us a way out, and he shows where we stand in terms of the gunas that we have in life. Some people have described this verse saying that depending on the gunas that you have, sattva, rajas, tamas, after death, one will be going to the higher worlds, and the ones with the rajastic guna will stay in this planet of earth. And the ones with the lower gunas or the tamasic gunas will go down to the netherlands. That is one way of explaining this verse. Now, the verse says, people who conform to sattva go higher up. Those who conform to rajas stay in the middle. And those who conform to tamas go down. Now, what exactly this has got to offer to us? It says, the responsibility of self-improvement or evolution is ours, and it's only our responsibility. The motivation and the will both must come from within. Now, we have forgotten our true nature and we have become the jivas in the first place. And then further we get entangled with the prakriti in identifying with the body and the mind. And both this body and the mind are under the influence of these gunas. Now, what is the way out? Now, there is a very little difference between a sattvic person and a tamasic person from the outer perspective view, if you say. A sattvic person is very content with his life. He's happy, he doesn't want anything. He's okay with the way the life is going for him. And same attitude we find in the tamasic person. He's okay with what the life has to offer. A sort of contentment has come. But this is not a true contentment. Both externally say, I have no desires and I'm happy to be in this plane. But for a tamasic person, the desires are there, but he has no ability to fulfill those desires and to rise above. But for a sattvic person, he has an ability to fulfill the desires, but on his own will, he gives up the desires and says, I am content here. So all of us, most of us would have read the book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Unless you have something to give up, first you have to move up the ladder, whether we are talking from the material perspective or spiritual perspective. If we go to a guru, he diagnoses our problem of the gunas, in which state of gunas we exist. Most of us do not make a progress in spiritual life because we don't work on our gunas. Everybody, each one of us thinks that we are fine the way we are, and the information, the knowledge that comes to us will serve us better. But there is a flip side to it. Unless we are working in partnership with the Lord on these gunas. Just now we spoke about Lord Venkateshwara and all. We were for some time staying in Tirupati as part of our project. I've seen how the temple and how the devotees operate and what kind of faith that temple draws. I used to wonder, our relationship with God, is it a trade? Most of the people ask Venkateshwara, who is a Kali Yuga Deva, that Lord, you do this for me and I offered this much offering in your hundi. And most of the time their prayers are answered and people come and donate huge amounts of wealth and they do lots of things to fulfill their promise to the Lord. Now this goes to explain a lot of things in a different order. For a person who is in tamasic state, who has no ability to cross the tamas, he needs the help of a guru. He needs the help of some God, some faith, where he understands his ability to fulfill his desires are working. But if we stay longer in that mode, that you give me this and I give you this, there is very little scope of improvement in our life. Any guru typically works on a sishya who is in a tamasic mode. He gives them a lot of work to do. And most of the time, all their desires seems to be coming true when they meet a certain guru or stay under the shade of a certain god or whatever. Why this happens is because there the guru makes it possible for him to move up the ladder, motivates him to go up the ladder. And there is something thrown, some carrot thrown, that if you do this, you will get this. If you do this, you will get this. So in the beginning, he works with swardha for a selfish interest, for self-interest. But then he has to come out of that tamasic mode of living life and get into the rajasic way of life. And once he reaches that rajasic way of life, then the guru has the ability to stabilize him and say, still you make the money, still you run after doing things, but now you are doing it with niswardha bhava. You're not doing it for yourself anymore. You're doing it for contributing it to the society. And slowly the desires, the hidden desires and passions in an individual are burnt out totally on this rajasic platform. And slowly the person is moved to sattvic guna and asked to stay there. I remember Swami Anubhavananda once personally used to tell me that the biggest problem you have, Radha, is because you are attached to your goodness. Like Arjuna always used to think that I am good, I am sattvic, there's nothing more need to be done in my life. So even that attachment to your sattvic nature has to be given away. So this is how the gurus and the Lord Krishna and the satsangs and everything take us knowingly and unknowingly from a tamasic platform to a rajasic platform. Perform for your selfish interest, then you become unselfishly contributing towards the society. That's why seva, satsang, both have to go together. Whatever we have earned, we have to share with the world. And then they take us to a sattvic nature. And then from the sattvic nature also, the attachment to our sattvic nature is also removed by taking us to a state beyond the gunas. And only when we can become one with the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you, Radha, for your explanation of this verse. From this verse, there is a transition from gunatraya to gunatita. As explained, as Radha explained, there are so many ways to understand. The greatest joy of being a human being is your free will. We are born with certain pasha, certain bondages, and those are the gunas. Even sattva is a guna, even rajo is a guna, even tamo is a guna. All of us are a combination. The sattva is predominantly sattvic, others are predominantly rajasic or predominantly tamasic. All these are going to bind us, and whatever you do, you can polish it a little way. The only shift through jnanam is shift from the body-mind complex to the embodied. So that is the whole process. I have made a few notes. Let me see what I have written. In this verse, Krishna talks, he summarizes about gati. The verse exactly says those who are sattva people go to higher lokas. The rajasic people remain stagnant. They come to the manushya lokas. And tamasic people go to lower lokas, or if they are in this lokas, they have animal birth or the plant birth. Swamiji clarifies again and again that when you say higher or lower, does not mean a different time or a different space. It is absolutely relative. It is not, you cannot understand it in our space-time location altogether. It is totally different. And that is what we need to understand. And the whole shift will be not from the various gunas itself, from from the body-mind complex to the Atma. That we will see from this verse onwards. Vidya, can you explain this verse?
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Nanyam gunebhya kartaram yada drashtanupashyati gunebhyascha param veti madbhavam sodhigacchati. This is an important verse, not only of the 14th chapter, but of the entire Bhagavad Gita. In the analysis of the three gunas in the earlier verses, we have understood that nobody can escape from these three gunas. Lord Krishna also indicated that whatever be the type of gunas, bondage cannot be avoided. This sloka is a healing mantra which says that the only solution from samsara is that one has to transcend the three gunas and become gunatita or nirgunaha. Now coming to the verse, gunebhyaha param. Here the seeker's sadhana is to know the Sakshi Chaitanyam, that is param, which is gunebhyaha, that it is beyond the three gunas. Here, beyond has to be understood as in and through the body-mind complex, but not related or affected by the body-mind complex. The Sakshi Chaitanyam or consciousness is in and through the Trigunatmaka Shariram, or enlivening the Trigunatmaka Shariram, but never getting tainted by anything. It is Asangatvam, the Sakshi Chaitanyam, and we have to claim that this Sakshi Chaitanyam as I am. Aham iti veti. Here, this person recognizes the consciousness which is beyond the three gunas as himself and discovers the Purnatvam through Vedanta Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam, otherwise called Jnana Yoga. Yada Drishta means the intelligent seeker who understands that the problem is not with the situation. So he changes himself and realizes that the Purnatvam is not dependent on the situation or the setup. Then his struggles to change the situation stops here. Anupashyati. Anu here means keeping with the teaching of the Guru and Shastra. Pashyati here is discovers the higher self or the Sakshi I or the Gunatita I. Gunebhyaha anyam kartaram na pashyati. Gunebhyaha here means anatmabhyaha, that is stula, sukshma, karana shariram or the panchakoshas, which is eternally a karta. To transcend kartratvam, we have to come to Atma alone, which is eternally akarta, abhokta. Iti yada pashyati. The day one discovers that one is Purna Sakshi, then running about for Purnatvam will stop. He or she may run around, certainly not for Purnatvam, but out of Purnatvam. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, Madbhavam adhigacchati. The one who has discovered the Sakshi, he attains Ishvara Bhavam. Madbhavam means Purnatvam, which means Jivan Mukti. Thus, through this shloka, we understand that Ahankara can never become Gunatitaha. Only by shifting our identification from Ahankara to Sakshi, one can become Gunatitaha. When one shifts the identification from the lower I, that is Anatma, to the higher I, that is Atma, the consciousness, from Kshetram to Kshetrajnaha, then there is total freedom from samsara or dissatisfaction. So, the shift has to be from the reflected consciousness to the original one called Chit or the Sakshi Chaitanyam, the higher nature of the personality. This consciousness is free from all the gunas and therefore the higher I is Nirgunaha or Gunatitaha. We have to play the role as we are playing a drama. The only remedy is switching the identification from Saguna Ahankara to Nirguna Sakshi. This is called Atma Anatma Vivekaha, and understanding that I am not the body with consciousness, but I am the permanent consciousness with the temporary body, and as Atma, the Sakshi, I am ever Nirgunaha, I am ever Akarta, and I am ever Abhokta. And this jnanam alone is the solution for samsara, which is the real understanding of the Vedantic truth. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Vidya. This is the message. This is the glory. There is nothing else to be done except to make that mental shift. Enough and enough of everything else. I have identified with my ahamkara. I have identified with my gunas. I've tried to polish my gunas, but my gunas are still a bondage. The only way is through jnanam. And once jnanam comes, you understand that until now I was so much identified with this body-mind complex. Thanks to our gurus, they have helped us to say that there is something in me which is beyond all these gunas, which is free from all that bondage. And that is the witness, that is the Kshetrajna, the witness of all this. And the more that I am anchored onto that, then there will be still a little bondage of the sattva, there will be bondage of the rajas, there will be bondage of the tamas, but now it does not affect me. Now I am clear that I am no longer bound by all the gunas. My body mind can be there, but but I have gone beyond. And this is the understanding. And all our Upanishads and all our teachings is to bring this very central message of this particular verse. This verse and the message, what Vidya has said, remember again and again, this is what all our teachers say. How does one become a gunatita? The question itself is wrong. As long as I am the ahankara, I can never become a gunatita. All I need to do is I am already a gunatita, just by shift of your identification. So long that I have been identified from the body-mind complex. Now make a shift. And this moment, as we are listening, as we are speaking, if we can make the shift, but remain in that shift. As long as we are in this class, we are all gunatitas. The moment we get out of the class, remember this anchorage. That is why for all of us who are listening for the same story, Brahma Vidya is already there, but Brahma Nishta needs to come. And when we come out and when somebody criticizes us, when life is hard, when the difficulties are going on, if we can continue to be with this, then we have the fruit of all our work. Jyoti, can you continue with the next verse, verse 20, please?
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Gunanita tri anadehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkhair vimukto mritam shnute. Word meaning: Gunan, the three modes of material nature; Itan, these; Atitya, disidentifying, transcending; Trin, the three; Dehi, embodied; Deha, body; Samudbhavan, produced of; Janma, birth; Mrityu, death; Jara, old age; Dukkhai, misery; Vimukta, free from; Amrutam, immortality; Ashnute, attains. Having acquired the knowledge that Purnatvam can be attained only through Jnana Yoga, Swamiji mentions this verse as the Guna-phalam. The entire Prakriti is penetrated by the three gunas, and step by step we have seen in the earlier verses that we have to move from tamas to rajas to sattva, and finally even drop sattva, as all the three gunas belong to the Prakriti, and the Purusha is beyond the gunas, pure and free. Samudbhavan is the karanam, the cause of the body, of all the three sharirams, the five koshas, and all anatma. Atitya is transcending or disidentification with matter, activity, and knowledge, thus realizing the embodied self trapped in this body and acquiring a human birth for a specific purpose. We should function through the body and not as the body. Swami Ramakrishna Paramhansa mentions this state of Triguna Atita seen in children below 5 years and Paramahansa sages. And even the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Sthita Prajna is the similar as Triguna Atita, beyond the gunas. The next problem, once you identify with the body, is of vikaras, that is modification. And modification is universal, a natural state for all creation. And modification causes all misery. Thus, birth, death, old age, and resistance to this modification is the cause of all miseries. Now here, Atmanyanam teaches us acceptance and changes our perception of the body being an instrument for a higher goal. And thus, the divine I is the immortal behind the mortal body. And this realization is Jivan Mukti. All of us can be enlightened here at this very moment by just being a Sakshi, the witness. Thus, abiding in this reality of witnessing and not being influenced by the relativity, one can attain liberation. Thus, concluding, when Buddha attained enlightenment, he strongly affirmed to his disciples that the immortal has been gained by me. You also can achieve it. Anybody can attain it. Hari Om, sir.
Thank you, Jyoti. Cannot be improved upon. You have explained so beautifully that this is a verse about Guna-phalam. Guna-phalam. That means if Jnanam that we have been working on, the third Shatkam is all about Atma Jnanam, to know my real self, that I am a combination of these two. As a body-mind, I am plagued by all the gunas, and the gunas are going to bind me. But as the Atma, I am free from all of them. And as you said, at this moment, if you can make this identification, then the aging of my body is not my problem. It is the body's problem. The sickness of my body or the death of my body, because now I have disidentified with that which never ages, which never becomes sick, which is never going to die. And then, although I witness these changes in the body, and that is what is a Jivan Mukta state, this is our birthright. There are three things extremely difficult to get. Human birth, we have got. Mumukshutvam, we have got. Mahapurusha, we have got. Sometimes when these classes are going on and we always have some other work to do and we wonder, is it worth coming for one more class? I will say, hold on till December. Till December, when there is this Gita Jayanti, let us learn each of these verses, even though our work is very hard. Listening to these verses itself empowers us to work on the jnanam that we already have. All we need to make that is a nishta. We go to the next verse. Dr. Asha Naik, if you can tell us what is Arjuna's doubt now.
Okay, now Mrs. Jyoti and Dr. Thimappa were talking about three gunas and also how they bind human body. Lord Krishna pointed out the method of becoming gunatita, which is the only means of liberation. And that method is given in verse 19 and 20, which is explained just now, is Atma Jnanam only. Because Anatma can never become Gunatita. And Atma is ever Gunatita. See, all of us are Gunatitas. And using Suguna Anatma as a medium of transaction. That is how I am able to talk and explain through the Suguna Atma, and you are here to listen. This much was taught by Lord Krishna so far. Now, Arjuna has raised a questions in 21st verse, which has three parts. First part is Gunatita Lingam, and second part of the question is Gunatita Achar, and third is Gunatita Sadhanam. So the verse goes like this, 21st verse, that is. Kai lingo strina gunatitan atitaha bhavati prabhu. Kim achar katham chetan string gunatita vartate. Now, here this is very poetic, and the word etat tri gunan comes in first line as well as second line. And atita comes here, that is called beyond, and ativartate, it comes in the second line, which says how he goes beyond. Arjuna is inspired by the Lord's teaching, and naturally he wants to know more about the Jnani, who becomes gunatita. And Arjuna asked the Lord, Arjuna uvacha, Prabho etan gunan atataha kai lingam bhavate. Lingam means characteristics, indicators. So what are the characteristics or indicators of a person who has transcended the three gunas successfully? Exactly same question he asked in second chapter, 54 verse. Sthita prajnasa ka bhasa. Will there be any change in physical body? Whether he will be fat or thin, whether he will, like a Bhishma, sit on thorns, where there'll be halo around him, will he have extraordinary siddhis? He will start reading people's mind, Jnani, and automatically will he get, or does he have to do anything else? They will be, to know this indication. Lingam means indications. Kai lingam gunam atita, gunatit jnani. With what indicator does he exist? Second question is kim achar. How does he conduct himself? How does he relate to the people? How does he interact with people? Does he start talking in Sanskrit? Does he stand? Does he? But he lives in the same society. So there is no change externally. Only internal there will be change. People have this misconception that gunatita means it is different. So we have to look, not look overhead, but we have to look inside the head. There is no difference other than the clear understanding about what is what. There is no mysticism connected to Vedanta. If anything mystical belongs, it is to non-Vedanta. Vedanta has no mysticism at all. This Arjuna wanted to know, and he was confused, and he wanted to know how to conduct himself. This was the second question. Now the third question is katam chayetan gunan ativartate. How does he translate the three gunas? Is it a physical journey going to some other loka, or is it a time transformation, or some kind of a flashy event? There's no event, no time transformation, only clear understanding of the facts. What is the fact? Fact is, I am ever free. So, how does he transcend these gunas, which will be told in the next verse? Thank you. Hari Om.
Thank you, madam, for a nice and a high-spirited explanation of this verse. And whenever people come with the proper preparation and present with great conviction, we enjoy. This is a beautiful teaching style of the Bhagavad Gita, and I think technically it is called Abhyasa. Abhyasa means repetition. So the teacher, this had been done in the second chapter already. Arjuna asks a very similar question, Sthita Prajna Kabasha, and the very similar question is being asked again because the teacher Sri Krishna has given us all the characteristics of a gunatita. But by giving us the same thing in repetition in different words, hopefully those various blocks in our mind will go and the jnanam can slowly become a jnana nishta. Smita, let us see, can you explain to us what is Krishna's reply?
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Prakasham cha pravrittim cha mohameva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kankshati. From verse 22 onwards, Lord Krishna answers Arjuna's questions. The question which I was asked has three parts. The first is Gunatita Lingam, second is Gunatita Acharaha, and third is Gunatita Sadhanam. Gunatita Lingam means is the indicator to know one has become Gunatita or no, not. Gunatita Acharaha means the way or the conduct of the Gunatita Purusha or the Jnani. Gunatita Sadhanam, by means of which one can become a Gunatita. Verse 22 and 23, Lord Krishna answers the first question, Gunatita Lingam. To know whether one is gunatita, or one should know the nature or the characteristics of gunatita. A gunatita is one who is detached from his own body-mind complex and is able to look at his own body-mind complex as a part of the world, and therefore he enjoys an objectivity with regard to his own body-mind complex. This gunatita or jnani, because of his very source of sadhana, enjoys a better health at the body and mind level. This because he has gone through karma yoga sadhana and upasana yoga sadhana, and therefore his mind is predominantly a sattvic mind. A jnani's mind is a predominantly sattvic mind. Therefore, he has got a strong mind, refined mind. A jnani or a person who is gunatita has a mind which is free from violent reactions. And in fact, this is a definition of the sattva pradhana mind. Therefore, the reactions are less to life situation, and even if there are reactions in the mind, they are of the milder variety, and he has got the capacity to recover from this regular mind, from this milder reactions by himself quickly. But a jnani knows that even if he enjoys a healthy mind as a result of sadhana, there is no possibility of 100% healthy mind. Just as there is no possibility of 100% health at the physical level, no mind can be a healthy at the psychological level also. Therefore, jnani accepts the fact that his mind is generally healthy, but his mind is also subject to fluctuations of the three gunas, that is sattvic, rajasic and tamasic. And he responds to the problems in a healthier way. That is, he is neither too indifferent nor inactive. He does not react to the reaction. Jnani does not react to the problematic situations. He reacts with samatvam. So samatvam is his acharaha. Therefore, he is aware of the mental situation and he enjoys improving the mind all the time, remembering the fact that the improvement of the mind has nothing to do with his purnatvam, because I am the Atma who is different from the mind also. Therefore, Lord says, Prakasham cha pravrittim cha, that is, Jnani enjoys prakasham predominantly, that is sattva guna. Prakasham here means sattva guna, and pravrittim cha, that is rajoguna, and moham evacha. Moham means tamoguna. Therefore, jnani has all the three gunas. The only difference is jnani's mind is predominantly sattvic and rajoguna in the middle portion and tamoguna in the lower portion. In addition to the proportion of the gunas, the intensity or the proportion fluctuates too. Therefore, nadveshti, it means he does not hate his mind. When tamoguna, rajoguna is predominant, he does not hate his mind. Na nivrittani kankshati, and gunas reside at particular times. He will not get attached to the sattva guna too. He knows all the three gunas are inevitable compositions of everything, including his mind. Therefore, he is able to accept his mind. Accepting one's own mind is an indication of gunati tattvam. In conclusion, a jnani or a gunatita person, one who is indifferent to the rise and fall of each guna, one who has a higher degree of detachment and discrimination, one who lets the guna come and go with ease, such a person has transcended the gunas. It is a difference between one who observes suitcases on an airport conveyor belt versus one who holds on to a suitcase and does not let go. The one who insists on holding on gets pulled away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Smita, for a very nice explanation of this particular verse. We have heard, but I do not know if you have had any experience living close to a jnani. It can be a very frightening experience because in real life, it is not very theoretical that they're going to be very sattvic. They can be very seemingly ordinary. They can be very rajasic. They can be very temperamental. They can be seemingly very ordinary. But one thing is very certain. They have complete control on their mind. So a jnani may have all the sattva, rajas in different proportions, but they have complete freedom when and where they would choose. And that's why you will see when you're close to such a person, it can be sometimes frightening, because not all of them are going to be sattvic. This is the way of a gunatita. Gunatita is extremely unpredictable. We'll have another verse with this on a similar lines. Nilima, if you can explain, then we will discuss these two verses.
Jai Gurudev. Present verse also, it is in continuation with the same thought flow, which is answering to the first question of Arjuna, which deals with the gunatita lingam. Udasinavadasino guneryo na vichalyate guna vartanta ityeva yo vatistati nengate. This verse gives us a picture of the relationship that a man of perfection maintains with the things and beings of the world. Yaha asinaha, he remains, udasinavat, as if indifferent, na vichalyate, he is not disturbed, gunaihi, by the gunas, na ingate, he does not waver, yaha avatistati, he remains firm, iti, with this understanding that gunaha eva vartante, the gunas alone interact. Udasinavat, being indifferent, means remaining as a witness. He neither takes sides with the sattva nor hates tamas. One just see actions are happening through him with the help of upadhis. He no longer sees himself as a ego-driven I, but has gone beyond it and identify himself as a universal self. This is the implication of transcending the gunas. Here, Udasinavat does not mean inaction, which is a tamasic tendency, or reaction, which is a rajasic tendency. For instance, if you have a problem with your child, he is with a wrong company of friends and falling behind in his studies. So being indifferent or acceptance is not a passive way, but we do take an appropriate action to improve the situation, but not by reacting or remaining not taking any action. Similarly, if a mind is there, it's not going to be same at all times. Neither by our inaction or reaction is going to improve our state of mind. But one can wisely choose the actions which can help to improve our mind. Remembering the fact it is one of the instruments in our daily transactions. It is nothing to do with our purnatvam. Because wise clearly knows correcting the mind is like straightening a dog's tail. Gunairyo na vichalyate. The gunas act as they are programmed to act according to their nature. The aspirant allows them without being distracted. Suppose the active guna prompts to act against dharma, he doesn't cooperate. But when it is beneficial, he will cooperate. Yet, he still remains as an observer of what is being done. Guna vartanta ityeva. He understands that everything is being done by the gunas. Even we have seen the similar verse in 3rd chapter, 27 verse. Prakrute kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha. So he understands it very clearly. Everything is done by gunas. He does not carry the ego of doership for the act being done. He is able to observe with a detachment and enjoy the play of the gunas. Yaha avatistati na ingate. In this way, he is able to establish in his own divine nature. Self-established, he does not waver. He remains firm with the understanding that the gunas alone interact. Jai Gurudev.
Thank you, Nilima, for another excellent presentation. So everyone did a great job. Let me see what I have got in my notes here. What does objectivity mean? An Ajnani displays extreme responses to situation in life. A tamasic person exhibits indifference, carelessness, which is a type of an extreme response. A rajasic person may exhibit extreme response of anxiety and fear because of his state of mind. A healthy person, a healthy response is neither inaction or reaction, but a thoughtful and a healthy action to improve the situation. He does what needs to be done in a given situation. He may appear to be indifferent to his body mind because he looks unperturbed even when adverse things happen. In reality, Ajnani is balanced in his reactions because he knows he is not the body mind complex. However, he continues to refine his mind in mastering the fluctuations in the gunas without being attached to it. So it is really the objectivity with relation to body mind. The body mind has its prarabdha, and partly decided by karma, and the karma decides the type of gunas, which in a way is difficult to change. We may change to some extent. That is why you see jnanis who were rajasic before they became jnani continues to be rajasic, continue to be active. There are some people who are extremely sattvic. There are some people who remain what seemingly to be sattvic. Right in the beginning, Radha made this distinction. So, from what is a tamasic and what is a sattvic, sometimes it is very difficult to make out. With this, I wish to thank all the speakers for a wonderful presentation of their verses, and we clearly enjoyed class today. I will formally conclude today's class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.